Everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here. And if you are listening to me or even watching me, you can hear it in my voice. I am under the weather. And if you're watching me, you also know I'm traveling. And so traveling while sick, always a fun time. So before I pass out, and I ran out of pre recorded content, so here we go. I want to talk about a major issue right now that is actually, quite frankly, hitting all of us, and that is a massive privacy violation that is slowly expanding thanks to big tech. Now, I've been talking about elements of this for a while, but there was a really concise write up in TechSpot by Sky Jacobs on this. And quite frankly, it's something that we really need to be discussing because we all know that the big tech companies, you name them, and a whole slew of startups, to be perfectly honest, but primarily big tech, they are seeking to train their AI models. And as they do that, they are increasingly looking at our data that is protected by privacy laws, not just here in the United States, but even more stringent countries like the EU, or the countries that make up the EU, rather. So, to give themselves legal cover, they have been slowly but carefully rewriting their terms and conditions to include things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, generative AI, and on and on and on. Now, Google is a really good example of this. Last July, they made a ton of changes and tweaks to their privacy policy, which now states that Google uses publicly available information to help train its AI language models and develop products like Google Translate, Bard, which is now known as Gemini, and cloud AI capabilities. And they explained essentially this as, quote, simply clarifying that newer services like Bard, now Gemini, are also included. We did not start training models on additional types of data based on this language change, end quote. Now, last month, another example of this is actually Adobe. You may remember that when they did something similar to Google, a lot of customers got really angry over these changes. Now, essentially what happened was a pop-up notified users about an update to their terms and conditions, suggesting that the company could now access and also claim ownership of content created by its creative suite, essentially to train its AI models, among other purposes. In other words, if you were saving your unique creations because you're using Adobe to create things, that's what they're known for, their AI could train on it. And so, by virtue of that, many users were naturally and rightfully angry, especially when they realized they could not access their projects without immediately agreeing to these confusing new terms. So, by virtue of it, that led to a wave of canceled subscriptions and forced Adobe to issue clarifications about their updated terms. So, with that, we've got Meta, aka Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, etc., etc. They informed Facebook and Instagram users in Europe that they would use publicly available posts to train their AI, meaning if you're posting on Facebook or Instagram, they're going to vacuum it up. Now, on top of that, complaints from, from the European Center for Digital Rights, basically by virtue of that, Meta paused those plans. And so it's easier for Meta basically to gather data from its US users because we have weaker consumer protections and a patchwork of state and federal oversight agencies, including the FTC. Now, on top of this, another one was Slack. Slack quietly added this as well, and you've got a bazillion businesses using Slack internally, not to mention you can use free Slack, et cetera, and they are training this. So this is a perpetual issue, and without really good privacy laws and especially artificial intelligence privacy laws, something that the European Union is moving as fast as they can on, and quite frankly, the world needs to, including the United States, we are going to be perpetually in this boat. And so by virtue of that, you've got to read the fine print. And studies show that something like 2%, if I recall correctly, actually read the terms and conditions. And I have to imagine about 99% of that 2% is the lawyers that actually wrote them. But nevertheless, we've got to start looking at this and understanding this when we are vetting software and platforms for clients, for example. Part of what we do is read the terms and conditions and privacy policies, not just of the website, but of the stated platform, the software, the training, all of these things. And by virtue of that, if it fails any kind of privacy or acceptable use policy for the organization we're helping, we don't use it. And that's obviously becoming harder and harder as everybody wants to train everything. So I'll leave it at that. That's what we're talking about. It's a huge problem that we've got right now. And so if you are adopting a new AI platform, heads up to you. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter and Nick AESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private. Thanks, everybody.